the third man in the ring, a very important guy in the sense that for the safety of the fighters and really to make sure all the rules are enforced. But it seems to me, in this sport, in the Muay Thai, there's a lot of mutual respect.
Yes.
And it's not like people doing any kind of cheap shots and stuff like that. It seems like people really are very respectful.
Absolutely, because it's martial art, and that's where we're brought up. There is a mutual respect between combatants, as opposed to, like, not to put down boxing, but it's a whole different ballgame. You know what I mean?
You give it a certain time, or are you looking at a certain look on the face?
Well, here's the deal. Normally, before the fight, I want to get some kind of verbal out of the guys. I'll ask them how you doing. Not that I'm concerned with how they're actually doing, but I want to see the speech pattern.
Right.
I want to see if they're focusing their eyes on me. So later on, during the course of the fight,
if
I ask them something, I see if it's normal. Also, you know, the rule of thumb is I'd rather stop the fight one punch early than one punch too late.
Sometimes you got to stop it just because, like you're saying, for what hasn't happened yet, but what could potentially happen.
Right, and I would say 9 out of 10 times you won't get an argument from the person because of that reason. Because they know, I mean, they're just for their safety. There's no underlying thing going on. You know what I mean? And
sometimes I think too, the ego probably a lot of these guys never say quit. I mean, for these guys, they're ready to go till they're out cold.
Yes.
So sometimes, but in other words, but that's more there when they come to, when they kind of realize they're probably thankful that you have stopped it.
Definitely. You know, like going back to what you said, you know, they have a do or die attitude. It's almost like that samurai mentality, whereas in other sports they don't have that.
Right. Where in this, with Muay Thai, it's not necessarily the sweet spot of hitting and avoiding. It's about being able to take.
It's about taking.
It's like what was that thing? The Wing Chun, the wooden dummy thing.
Right.
I mean, it seems like these guys and girls, you know, I've seen the girls fight are amazing. They can really take.
They train to endure that pain, and it's a point where you're trying to break somebody down. That's where the leg kicks come in.
Right, repeatedly.
You're trying to chop them down in a sense.
Yeah.
The sport I was officiating when I was still fighting, but on for amateur shows as a judge and an inspector. And then once I retired from fighting, I became a referee. Then I turned pro as a referee. I travel all over. I'm all over the place. Now I'm trying to just keep it
in the home base here.
Yeah.
So the amazing too for you to ref it. You know, for someone like me, I've never really competed other than, you know, sparring and stuff like that. So I'm really a novice and an amateur, so to speak. But I look at fighting as a metaphor, you know, when you're in a relationship or fighting a disease or a bad job. I mean, it's a metaphor for life. So I think anybody can understand it. But for you being that third man in the ring, it's critical that you've actually been down that road, because you really, if you had a guy like me reffing, I wouldn't know, you know.
It's like anything else. I think when you're involved in it, it's going to make you that much better, because I look for certain things where somebody else might not notice.
Now, for you, can you actually enjoy the fights while they're happening, or is that something like after the fights, like a couple of days later, you watch YouTube videos and you can enjoy it?
Enjoying the fights to a sense of, you know, I'm in third man. I definitely have the best seat in the house. No
right.
That. But I can't differentiate who's winning the fight. I'm not judging the fight.
Right.
I'm looking for an injury. I'm looking. Do I have to stop? Do I have to break it? I'm not. So when people say, "Oh, who do you give that round to?" I can't give you an honest opinion. Listen, it was a knockdown, and it's very obvious. But if it was an even round, I'm not paying attention. I'm looking for an injury.
But now also the energy, I can imagine, like I feel the energy of the fights, even, you know, when you're watching, you know, any kind of martial arts on TV, there's a certain amount of energy, and it's a rush, right? But then with an event like this, a live event, it's even like, say, you don't like hockey or golf, and you go see it live, it's adrenaline. So what's it like in the ring? And do you remember looking back as a fighter comparatively to being a ref, what kind of...
The rush there's no bigger rush than being a fighter, you know, fighting in a mano-a-mano with another man in the ring. Yeah. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it whatsoever.
So being a ref is second to best?
Like, again, it's the best seat in the house, but it doesn't compare to what these guys are going through. There's a lot of emotion going on.
Now, you know, it's funny, with all the fighters that I've met and martial arts over the years since I've trained and met people, it seems like everybody I've met is the most mellow, easygoing people. You know, it's crazy that, you know, that you have, it's like a different vibe, you know? Definitely. Even though these are people that are and here's the other guy with the best seat in the house.
Eric Torres, another referee.
Yeah, he's good. I've seen him too.
Excellent ref.
So what I was going to say was that it's an interesting thing that everybody, when you talk to, is a mild-mannered guy. Like, you don't, like, when I look at you, I don't see, I mean, I see that you're physically shaped, but you don't look like a guy who's like a bruiser who's going to look for picking fights.
There's no need for that.
No, but it seems like everybody I've trained with or met is that same, almost a real gentle, compassionate type of person, because it's the martial arts is an inroad.
It's because of the martial arts.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So what does that mean to you? Does it's almost like a spirituality or philosophy for you?
It's a spirituality, and it's a mutual respect amongst people.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in the ring stays in the ring. You get out.
Back to normal every day.
Back to normal.
All right. Well, Sorsor, one of the great take-on fighters, and we'll look forward to seeing you again, man.
Future legend, man.
There
Legend,
you go,
next
my man.
legend.
Now, one thing we asked you a little bit with your training. I mean, you look like you're in great shape. Conditioning is probably a key part of your training, in addition to obviously Muay Thai, sparring, and techniques. But do you have any secrets as far as conditioning, or any personal, not even secrets, but just personal methods that you use to achieve the conditioning that you've got?
One, like what you eat. What's put on that conditioning is about what you eat. Like, you exercise a lot, you allow like beef, meats, all that fat,
Right.
it collects up in your artery. So it makes it harder for the blood to flow to get
Wow.
oxygen.
That's interesting, yeah.
Because what allow what you do, like when I have a fight coming up, you allow fiber to keep my system clean.
Right.
Or allow like cut down with carbs and fatty foods. You know,
Right.
natural, green.
So that your flow, you're energetically, you're
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Now, what about as far as like cardio type stuff? Do you do long runs or sprint type endurance?
I do
intensity type stuff.
I do long runs, but usually I like to do like I train like how I'm gonna fight. I go on the track around my house, high school track. You know how the track goes like that, and it curves and it
Sure.
goes straight. On the long part, I usually try to do this like for 20 laps. On the long part, I sprint.
Wow.
The other part,
Coast around, just go.
yeah, just jog.
Right.
So it's simulating the rest period.
Oh, okay.
And the long part, I sprint. And then when I'm hitting the bag, I try to do a lot of combinations, reps non-stop, because being in the fight makes it easy.
Right, and then it's also high intensity where there's intervals where you got to turn it on and you
Yes.
chill, lay back, and
Yeah.
then sort of like that. It's interesting. Now, what about with the legendary six-pack abs? Now, how do you look like you must do some weights or something? I mean, is that all about body fat, or what's your secret on that, man? Just, you're finished. Is what you're saying?
We can just do pictures.
But no, let me tell you something. You girls are the best, and it's great because during the fight, you know, in between the fight, you know, when you see the fighters are on the side, they're all, you know, bent over and disformed, and then you get the beautiful take-on girls walking. It's just such a great, what do they call it? A juxtaposition? Maybe not. I don't know what the word is, but it's just a really interesting image of you know, beautiful women, you know, holding them around, showing them, and then you got these fighters all sweaty and broken and injured, and it's great.